Are you thinking of getting yourself set up to start indoor cycling? Well, you've come to the right place. This video will take you through everything you need to get set up. I'll be concentrating on Zwift, but it works equally well for other platforms. So let's get started and see exactly what you need. As a bare minimum, you're going to need 4 things: a bike, a smart trainer, something to run Zwift on, and of course, a subscription. So let's have a look at what bikes you could choose from. The first decision is to decide what you're going to use your bike for. You're going to use it solely for indoors, or you're going to use it outside as well, because this might dictate your decision. With the introduction of virtual shifting, almost any bike can be used in Zwift, regardless of its derailleur setup, its number of gears. It'll still work, and it'll still work really well. Of course, you could go down to your bike shop and pick a bike that you really like and that you're going to use outdoors as well, and then use on Zwift when you decide that you want to do some indoor cycling. Or equally, you could buy a dedicated frame and you could leave that on the indoor trainer so it's always ready to go, which is what I do. Of course, there's thousands of bikes to choose from, but the way that I started was I jumped on eBay, and actually I bought one of these, a Specialized Cirrus. Also on eBay, I got my smart trainer, but we'll come to that in a second. The usual rules apply when you're picking a bike. Size and fit are very important. You're going to spend a lot of time on it. It's going to get hot and sweaty in there. So you definitely need something that's going to be comfortable and that fits you correctly. If you're not thinking about virtual shifting, then you'd be looking at 10 or 11 speed, preferably, because this will fit most smart trainers. If you are thinking of virtual shifting, I've done a whole video on the options available, which you can have a look at right here. And I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Of course, if money is no object, then you could look at something like the Watt Bike or the Zwift Ride, 2 incredible pieces of equipment. And actually over time, I've upgraded my setup from the Specialized Cirrus, and I now have the Zwift Ride as my frame constantly set up. And actually what I would say about having a dedicated indoor setup is, it does, for me at least, encourage me to use it more often. I don't have to go through the hassle of removing the rear wheel off the bike, putting it onto the trainer before I even get pedaling. I can literally just go out, log in, and I'm on my way. In terms of smart trainers, there's 2 main types: wheel on and wheel off. So a wheel on trainer is arguably much easier to put your bike onto, only takes a couple of seconds, although it doesn't really take that much longer to take the wheel off and put it onto a wheel off trainer. Although I find, because I'm a bit clumsy, that I tend to get oil on my hands, and then I have to go and wash my hands, and then that means I have to go back out to the bike again, and the whole thing takes longer. So maybe a wheel on is a simpler idea for you to start with. And again, there's choices here. There's the kicker snap, and I actually started with the used Tacx Vortex, which serves the purpose absolutely fine. Where these fall down generally is in terms of power accuracy. There's a loss of power, if you like, going through the rear wheel into the wheel on the wheel on trainer. So you're maybe not getting all of the benefit of your cycling in the game, but for a starting point to see if you like indoor cycling, they are perfectly good. Wheel off trainers tend to be more accurate in terms of their power readings, certainly have more features. And the 2 most popular ones are ones like the Wahoo Kicker Core. It's an affordable trainer, £400 to £500, a similar amount in dollars. And that's the one that I've got with my Zwift Ride, and I've had 0 problems with it. It's been absolutely fantastic. Another one to consider perhaps is the Jet Black Victory. This has been getting very good reviews. DC Rainmaker on YouTube has done a completely extensive review on this trainer, so have a look at that and see what you think. Certainly a good alternative if you can get it. Every time I've had a look, it does seem to be out of stock. I guess they must be selling them quicker than they can build them. And of course, with the smart trainer, you could go used as well, which is what I did with my Tacx Vortex. So my original setup when I first started indoor cycling was a Tacx Vortex and a Specialized Cirrus bike on it. And the whole setup cost me about £400. That was as much as I spent to get going on Zwift. Over time, as I realized it was something that I wanted to continue to do, I upgraded my setup, and now I have the Zwift Ride with the Wahoo Kicker Core, which I hope will last me for a long time, and certainly seems to be very robust. So maybe that's a route for you to take. If you're still slightly undecided, you could buy used, in which case if you decided it wasn't for you, of course you could sell it, probably get most of your money back. And then if you find that you really love it, like I do, then you can start to think about upgrading your setup. So we've covered off the first two items that you need, the bike and the trainer. So the third item that you've absolutely got to have is a device to run Zwift on. And of course, Zwift is compatible with all devices. So you can run it on your phone, Android or iPhone. You can run it on your tablet, again, Android or iPad. You can run it on your Mac, you can run it on your PC, and you can run it on Apple TV as well. I started off running it on my phone, which was probably too small a screen. So then I decided that I'd plug my phone into my TV. That worked reasonably well, but I felt like I wanted something a little bit more permanent of a solution. So then when I bought the Zwift Ride, I bought it with the iPad attachment and I used my iPad on it, which actually was brilliant. But then, because I am who I am, I decided that I'd like a really big screen for that full immersive experience. So I have my own setup in a dedicated room in the house, whereabouts I have a 40-inch TV linked to my MacBook. And for me, this has been the optimal setup. Of course, you could have used a Windows PC, but I have a MacBook, so that's what I used. So in order to get running on Zwift, we've covered three main things, which is the bike, the trainer, and the devices. So now the fourth thing that you need is a subscription. To subscribe to Zwift, you can do it one of two ways. You can either take a monthly payment for £17.99 or you can go annual at £179.99. Broadly equivalent figures for US dollars and in other currencies, of course. Whilst that might seem like a lot of money, for me it's my alternative to going to the gym. So in the UK, the average amount of a gym membership, according to Google at least, is about £40 a month or close to £500 a year. So I look at it that I spent my £180 for my subscription, I spent my £400 on my setup. I already had a device to run it on, as most of us would have. So therefore it was broadly equivalent over 12 months to paying for a gym subscription. Once you get past that 12 months, of course, you're now into some kind of profit, unless you're like me, of course, and you go out and you upgrade your setup. But then, you know, that's what we do. So I would say that you've now got your bare minimum items, but what else should you have, or what else could you have? Well, certainly I'd recommend getting a fan, at least one, maybe two. It gets very hot, gets very sweaty, particularly now that we're in the summer here in the UK. And whilst the summers in the UK are not known for being exceptional, it still gets really warm. So definitely you will want a fan. And of course you probably want some kind of table or tray for you to put your drinks on, you know, some snacks if you're doing longer rides, perhaps put your computer on if you're linking it up to a TV, that kind of thing. So there's plenty of these available that you can buy, and of course you could just use something that you've actually got in the house. As I said before, whilst I was upgrading my setup, I decided to go for a bigger screen. And actually I do have to say, it does make a big difference. You're more immersed in the game if you've got that big screen in front of you. So that might be something that you want to consider as well, hooking it up to your TV and really getting involved. I find most of the time, unless I'm in a team event, whereabouts I'll be on Discord talking to my teammates, I really like to ride with music. So having some kind of music setup, a set of earbuds if you don't want to annoy the neighbours, or if you're in a quieter location, then a nice set of speakers, but certainly having some music going, as you probably would in the gym and when you're doing other exercise. Of course, that makes the whole experience that much nicer. One other item that I'd highly recommend is a heart rate monitor. Whilst you don't actually specifically need it to use Zwift, if you want to get into racing, then a heart rate monitor will be required. It's generally one of the things that's mandatory in order to ensure that the data is correct so that it's fair when you're racing. Heart rate monitors can be picked up pretty cheaply now. I've got a Wahoo heart rate monitor, which cost me about £60. And that's it, you're all set up, ready to go. If this Zwift Unlock video has helped you out, please hit the subscribe button. There's a lot more content to come to help you get the most out of Zwift and out of your subscription. And check out the full Zwift Unlocked playlist. I've got tons more tips coming that will transform your indoor training. What's been your biggest Zwift challenge? Drop it in the comments below I might just make a video about it. I'll see you in the next one. Keep pedaling and ride on.